Earning respect and influence is a psychological game. Dark psychology says that true control lies in the signals you send before you even speak. If these signals are right, people will naturally fall under your influence. And today, from my personal experience, I'll share 7 dark psychology secret triggers that will force people to give you instant respect. There was a stage in my life when my words carried no weight. I could be in the middle of a meeting, share what I thought was a valuable point, and watch it pass by without acknowledgement. People didn't roll their eyes or openly disagree. They simply let my words fade. That's often how social rejection works. It's quiet, almost invisible, but it eats away at you. And it wasn't about the quality of my ideas. It was about how I carried myself before the first word even left my mouth. I eventually learned that respect is not granted automatically. People make instinctive, almost unconscious judgments about your authority in seconds. These judgments are built on subtle cues, tone of voice, pacing, posture, and how you handle yourself under social pressure. I started experimenting with small changes, not loud, dramatic gestures, but strategic adjustments that shift the way others react to you. Over time, I identified 7 psychological triggers. 1. The first shift was cutting out the habit of over-explaining. For years, if someone asked me to do something and I couldn't, I would pile on a long list of reasons to prove my case. It seemed polite, but it actually undermined me. Saying I can't make it Friday carries more weight than I can't make it Friday because my cousin's dog has a vet appointment and then I might need to run errands. The second version sounds like you're trying to earn permission instead of simply stating a decision. From a dark psychology perspective, over-explaining is a submissive signal. It says you're accountable to the other person's approval. High-status individuals don't defend their choices, they declare them. 2. Then came the control of silence. I began pausing for 2 or 3 seconds before responding to a question. At first it felt strange, but I quickly saw the effect. People would lean in, waiting. That pause created a tension that made my eventual words feel deliberate and important. In power dynamics, the one who controls the pace controls the interaction. This is called temporal dominance, using time as a way to establish control without saying a word. Rapid responses often signal eagerness to please. Measured pauses signal authority. 3. After that, I learned to manage the emotional temperature of interactions. Every conversation has a mood, whether it's calm, tense, playful, or aggressive. Most people match that mood without thinking, but that's reactive behavior. Instead, I would mirror it briefly, then lower it slightly. When someone was overly excited, I'd steady my tone. When they were angry, I'd remain composed. The effect was powerful. They would unconsciously match my calmer state. Over time, they began to look to me as an emotional anchor. From a darker lens, this is conditioning, training people to take their cues from you, which quietly increases your influence over them. 4. Another change was making others reveal themselves before I did. I started asking, "What's your take on it?" before giving my own view. It appears respectful, and it is, but it's also strategic. When someone speaks first, they show you their thought process, values, and sometimes weaknesses. Armed with that information, you can respond in a way that supports your position or subtly redirects theirs. This is a conversational version of reconnaissance. Gather intel before committing. 5. Finally, I worked on how I occupied space. Posture is a silent form of communication. Standing tall signals alertness and presence. Relaxed shoulders show ease. Put them together, and you project quiet dominance. Too rigid, and you seem defensive. Too loose, and you look insecure. The goal is balance. To look like you belong exactly where you are, without apology. In nature, confident predators conserve energy. They don't waste it on unnecessary tension. Humans read this the same way, often without realizing it. 6. The 6th shift was mastering the art of strategic eye contact. Most people either avoid it entirely or overdo it, both of which send the wrong signals. Avoiding eye contact makes you appear submissive or insecure. Staring too long makes you seem aggressive or socially unaware. The balance lies in holding eye contact for just a second longer than feels comfortable, then breaking it naturally. That extra moment creates a subtle pressure, enough for the other person to feel you're fully present without triggering defensiveness. I once tested this in a negotiation meeting. While the other person explained their offer, I kept my gaze steady just slightly longer than necessary, then looked away as if considering something important. That small act shifted the balance. They began speaking faster, adding unnecessary details, and eventually lowering their demand without me saying a single word. This is how dark psychology uses discomfort as a tool. You create a silent pressure that makes the other person try to escape by giving you more than they planned. 7. The final shift was controlling the frame of every interaction. The frame is the underlying narrative of who is leading and who is following. Most people unconsciously accept whatever frame the other person sets. I learned to subtly redefine it. If someone approached me with urgency, I'd slow the pace. If they came in skeptical, I'd shift the conversation to shared goals before addressing their concerns. By doing this, I wasn't reacting to their story. I was rewriting it. The frame you control becomes the reality both people operate in. For example, a colleague once entered my office insisting a deadline was impossible and that we'd need to compromise. Instead of debating, I reframed the conversation. Let's first agree on why this project matters before deciding the timeline. By resetting the context, I moved the focus from limitation to shared purpose. The interesting part, by the time we got back to the deadline, he was suggesting ways to meet it, as if the earlier objection had never existed. This is narrative dominance in action. You change the battlefield so the other person ends up fighting for your position without realizing it. Looking back, these 7 triggers transformed how people treated me. What started as quiet frustration, being overlooked, became an exercise in psychological craftsmanship. None of these tactics are loud or flashy. They don't require you to talk more, impress more, or demand attention. In fact, they work precisely because they slip beneath conscious awareness, influencing people in a space they can't name, but can definitely feel. There's a reason dark psychology works so well in everyday life. The human brain evolved to process subtle dominance signals long before language even existed. A pause, a look, a shift in emotional tone. These bypass logical thinking and speak directly to instinct. That's why these changes feel invisible yet powerful. They're not tricks you perform, they're patterns you embody. The most surprising part, once these behaviors became natural, I didn't have to think about earning respect anymore. It arrived automatically, as if I had stepped into a different version of myself. And perhaps that's the deeper lesson. Authority isn't something you chase. It's something you radiate. When you know exactly which psychological strings to pull, and you have the patience to let others feel the pull without ever seeing the hand behind it. So, if you want more of this, the kind of insight that others won't tell you, hit subscribe now, and let's keep sharpening your edge.